And we are live. Welcome back. It's
Hi,
Friday.
welcome
Hello,
everybody.
hello. It's Friday the 9th of August, 2024. Um, in the States here, it is the dog days of summer. We just had a hurricane come through the west side.
Oh
Um,
wow.
the 90s out west, it's
Oh
in the
wow.
hundreds. It's,
I would kill for that weather.
yeah, it's quite different. I've seen some
We're in the
pictures.
60s and 70s over here.
A
So
little
we've
bit of
got the
clouds
60s.
too, if I remember seeing.
Yes. Yes. We are cloudy right now. I'm looking out the window and it's yes, definitely lots of clouds. And
Yeah.
it's probably about 68 degrees. And I would kill for some 90-degree weather.
Well, it's here, I'll tell you.
Mhm.
Today we're going to talk AI. I'm going to throw these four out there, but it doesn't. They're guidelines, guardrails, guidelines.
Yeah.
I'd like to hit on the European laws, regulations that went in
Yes.
effect. I'd really like to talk about robotics,
Yes.
and then I'm not going to say the anti AI movement, but the anti AI movement that is getting spins and turns here in the states,
Yeah.
at least on the media
Yeah.
side, and then leave the wild card.
There is a growing voice of dissent now.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
And okay, and that leads into, so you're over there in in Britain, so not, you're right up next to the EU. How is the because they just initiated or started to enforce the laws
Yeah.
last week or so. It's recent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just this last week, the EU AI Act went into
AI.
effect. It went on effect on August 1st. And it was just a big step as far as global AI regulation is concerned, because now this was one of the most difficult ones for me personally. When I looked at the EU AI Act, I felt as though it was very punishing
Hmm.
and it was not going to be very good for innovation or development. And this is the one that's gaining traction, which is always worrisome, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, I remember when it was signed in. It was when oh gosh, was that a year ago or so? But it was months
Yeah,
back when
yeah,
everyone signed it, and I was able to review it. It did seem to me, of course, I didn't go in detail on legalese or anything, but it's like, yeah, okay, this is a little restrictive. I kept on getting the whole EU feel,
yeah,
right? That like, oh, geez, and it seemed to at that point, it's like, wow, AI, quote unquote, just seemed to hit a couple
yeah,
2-3 months, and
yeah,
all of a sudden we've got a very comprehensive set of regulations that aren't just going to affect a small country in
yeah,
Europe. They're all of Europe.
yeah,
So my red flags were going up just to see what's. But then again, I'm thinking, well, that's Europe.
yeah.
It's like us
Yeah,
do us.
100%.
So
But you think that things are going to stay in Europe, but that's really where regulation starts, right? And if they are able to regulate it and do what they're trying to do with it,
well,
then this is regulation that will continue. I'm sure that other nations will start adopting this type of regulation. It's the it's the first mover advantage kind of thing that happens with regulation.
yeah, I heard someone say something. I was on another webcast earlier this week. A couple guys from the UK, and it was very interesting. I hadn't thought of this. They said, "Well, you know what? It's regulating AI companies." He goes, "Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
All the AI companies are in the US."
Yeah,
And I'm thinking, "Oh yeah, so they're regulating
yeah,
us." Well,
yeah,
that's not going to
100%.
work. Yeah,
And you have to think
Apple are
about that.
already. Yeah, so we don't like regulation, but see, as you just said, there are movements here that are going to try and model that particular
No, but the interesting
aspect.
thing along with that fact is this, that there are companies now that are have decided that they are not going to be supplying Europe with their AI,
Yeah,
you know. So, they're making decisions that they've decided that they're going to like not release their AI products to Europe.
right, right.
And
So,
so, I mean, that's a big disadvantage. That's why I was so glad that I'm in the UK and not in the EU,
yeah,
because they might not even get the new iPhone.
yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
Apple just had a something go down yesterday, I think, where they're going to pay something.
Yeah,
There's Meta had some issues. Google, all of them have had issues with the EU and it's really weird. It looks like now the EU is almost the AI isolationists in
yeah,
whether they wanted to or not. That's
yeah,
where they're at, and the whole thing we said earlier is like I've been an anti-regulation since day one. I've kind of mellowed a little bit because I've seen some things, but just because it's so early in stages, it's going to blow out the innovation. It's not going to allow that innovation
Yeah.
to take place as much. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, companies like Meta and Apple are perfect examples of companies that are fully invested in this AI revolution, and they're not going to, keel over and do whatever certain regulators are wanting them to do. So
Yeah.
there is going to be that battle, which is an interesting one, and I hope that they win. I really do, because honestly, for me, the EU regulations has always been something of a concern for me. Like, I just feel as though I feel as though they've been written by people who haven't used AI.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And that was, or technology.
yeah, 100%.
Our guys are our
Very
senators and things.
bureaucratic,
Oh
very,
yeah.
very bureaucratic, very much not in alignment with the actual vision of what AI is possibly can do right now. I mean, if you look at everything that's happening right now, just the kind of models that are coming by, I think Mistral AI and NVIDIA, they
Mhm.
have come together and created a new model. And this is going to be the next big model. I mean, obviously,
Wow.
NVIDIA
Yeah.
is this is their first big partnership with an AI company like that, and they're going to be providing the hardware, and so you're looking at a lot of innovation happening in these organizations that the most of the world is missing out on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to me that this is a classic display of the challenge of artificial intelligence. And it
Yeah.
sees it, you see it in bureaucracies, all right, but business to business. So it's kind of segues into the stock market took a hit over here, tech stocks lost some value. There was an
Mhm.
adjustment to go on, and then the anti AI movement is abound, or is catchy. It's starting to move, but that's only, in my opinion, the reason is because big corporations and bureaucracies cannot handle what real artificial intelligence does. Right? It
Yeah.
is at an individual level, so it
Yeah.
fragments everything. It is the antithesis of a bureaucracy, and
Yeah.
it's frightening on two stages. Like power in the people, that's a mob, all
Yeah.
right, and then other side is let the bureaucracy set the rules, set the guidelines.
Yeah.
That's ending up to be censorship and getting rid of freedom at the very basic. So those two are colliding on all fronts, whether it's
Yeah.
political, social, or business. And I think that's what we're seeing. And another thing is because it's starting to fragment. You mentioned the NVIDIA. What was bound to happen is everyone's going to have their own AI,
Yeah.
right? Down
Yeah.
to the individual. So what we're starting
Yeah.
to see are multiple different
Yeah.
types of AI systems hit, and
Yeah.
that's going to blow out. There's going to be dozens and dozens of them.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you, me, and all of us will pick our own and
Yeah.
develop our own.
And I
So,
think that, I mean, the top dog still is ChatGPT,
yep.
is at the forefront. But the interesting thing that's happening within innovation within AI is the multimodal models, right? The
Hmm.
multimodal models are coming in from all directions. And that just is going to be so. I mean, we got mind blown by just the basic capabilities of what AI could do. But
Hmm.
now you're talking from video to speech to text to everything integrated within one model,
Yeah.
and being able to do that by just speaking a phrase is going to be very, very interesting. So all of these regulations are happening, and it is concerning, and we definitely want to stay ahead of the game and
Hmm.
talk about them and make sure that we're addressing them. But at the end of the day, the innovation that's happening is in leaps and bounds. I mean,
Yeah.
it's revolutionizing it. That was an AI index report that I was reading, and I don't remember which one it was. It was a trends report, and they were talking about the fact that now 75% of workers are claiming to use AI, and
Hmm.
most of them are using it secretly.
Right. Right. And what's the other thing is we probably use AI every day and don't even know it, which
Yeah,
is the next
100%.
stage. Yeah. I don't know if you use Spotify, and I'm not plugging
Yeah, I do.
Spotify.
Hmm.
Well, not only, I mean, I've noticed that Spotify's speech
Hmm.
search, I don't know
Yeah,
how it's done. It's the fastest I've ever seen. It is
really.
lightning fast.
And so then what do you have to do? You just speak in what you need to speak and it does it?
ELO, and
Yeah.
I mean within less than a second, it pulls
Wow.
up ELO. I don't know how they're doing it. That's another thing.
Yeah.
It's like, well, where did this come from? And
Yeah.
then even ChatGPT's speech thing is pretty cool, and it's getting
Yeah.
better. It's
Yeah.
so
100%.
yeah. When you talk multimodal, which is interesting that you mentioned that because that's where we're going to go, right? With
Yeah.
with our androids and our robots,
Yeah.
multimodal vision, touch, all the
Yeah.
six senses that we have.
Yeah.
Um, so there's Android company that came out with their second. I think it's called, I forget, number two or whatever. Figure two is the
Hmm.
name of the robot, and it's
Yeah.
going to be integrated with Chat GPT 5. Okay,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
bipedal. It looks quote unquote humanistic, human like, but BMW has been using it in their plant over
Okay.
somewhere in Germany for almost a year now.
Okay.
And see, that's another tick because it's a blue collar Android.
Yeah.
It literally stands in front of a press
Yeah.
and a stamping machine, pulls the parts, adjusts the parts that are askew, knows
Yeah.
that it should be put in this way, does
Yeah.
it, and boom, boom. So, another thing that's been happening is the unions are starting to, everyone's going on strike over here.
Oh,
And
really?
well, the creatives, Hollywood's got a strike going on, or had a strike going on, a couple of them. The game makers, video game
Yeah.
makers, they're on strike, and they couch it around all sorts of things, but it's really AI that they're
Yeah.
worried about. And doesn't matter what they do. Axios just laid off a percentage of staff because of AI.
Yeah.
Intuit, I think, converted 1,500 employee spot spaces
Yeah.
to folks that know how to use AI, which is a
Yeah.
translation for, well,
Yeah.
we don't need 1,500 of them.
Yeah.
So
100%.
it's happening no matter
Yeah.
what anyone says. And the next thing
Yeah.
is with these human like robots. And again, like I said earlier, everyone's going to have their own. We're going
Yeah.
to see a plethora of these things come out where we do have, it's not going to be Roomba anymore,
No,
right? It's going to
no, much
be
more advanced
Alice.
than Limbo.
And it's fast. It's
Yeah.
changing quickly. So
It's happening very, very quickly. And it's just a really interesting, it's a very interesting paradigm that we are in right now.
fascinating. I
Yeah.
saw that China just announced their bird like drones. So
Yeah.
they flap like birds. If you look at them from far
Yeah.
away in the sky, they look like birds, but they're an autonomous drone with AI
Wow.
built in. Yeah, that's nuts.
Wow.
I saw another one that is a flying drone to visualize a snake. Okay,
Yeah.
but each segment that bends has its own propeller,
Oh, wow.
so
Okay.
it floats,
Yeah.
but it will
So
change
like a
shape
hovercraft.
like a helicopter, but
Oh,
multiple
wow.
helicopters. And each segment has a propeller, so it can change its shape as it's going. So it can
Wow.
fly through twists and turns. And then they apply that to a manufacturing
Hmm.
robot that can adjust its shape to fit any manual task that it's giving. It's mind blowing,
That is
right?
very mind blowing.
And inconceivable not more than maybe 2-3 years ago,
Yeah.
right?
Totally
So
inconceivable.
it's incredible now. So it just goes to show there's so much going on that
Yeah.
it's almost more than we can bear.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I've been reading a lot about the fact that the most hottest topic right now that people are trying to figure out is the explainability model. So that what they want to be able to have AI explained because they don't understand it. And that's really true. It's happening so quickly that there's nothing really that is like you can't keep up. You can't keep up with how fast it's evolving. And then on top of that, you have I've been doing a bunch of research. I've been reading a bunch of research papers, but all of them are um, focused on increasing research grant capabilities for AI. Like AI has become like the hottest topic on the planet right now as far as research is concerned.
Hmm.
But the interesting thing when I look at research, and I always mock it when I see it, is that all of these organizations are focused on are so focused on AI research. Oh yeah, we want to do AI research, but their own processes are so archaic that the
Yep.
students are not allowed to use AI to do AI research.
It's incredible. Yeah. So that's the whole the academic world is just like the political world, was just
Yeah.
like the business world. There are, talk about hierarchies,
Yeah.
right? I mean, in established
Yeah.
hierarchies and platforms and rules and regs,
Yeah.
and AI just cuts right through that. It really
Exactly.
does. And going to research something like that. But you're right; it's very difficult to describe what it. Well, it's just as difficult to describe what intelligence is. I think we've
Yeah.
talked about that. Like,
100%.
okay, tell me what intelligence is, and you'll get a million different answers. What
Yeah.
is sentient? How do you
Yeah.
know you're alive? Those kind of
Yeah.
questions. So it's like,
100%.
how are we going to be able to manage something we can't define, and we're creating an artificial something we can't define? It's
And there's just so many things that are not defined. We have built our entire structure on this weak ass scientific method, even though I am a proponent of the scientific method if it's done properly. I
best
do
we
agree
got.
with
Yeah,
it. But we do live in a society now that values science over rationality and all of these other things. And so we're living in a system that's about to be shook at its core.
yeah,
I think there's going to be, investigations about spirituality. There's going to be investigations about, just supernatural events that happen to people. We're going to understand a lot more than we ever have before. And
absolutely.
so, there's not going to be just one method that we are focused on, which is, AI right now. Everyone wants to look at AI through the scientific lens,
Hmm.
but I think it's going to be much bigger than that.
It is. It will, and that's part of it because it's going to be individualized, and it's going to be a natural wave of. Boy, this is going to sound really crazy, but a human evolution,
Yeah.
sort of. But
Yeah.
it's really going to be the ultimate study of ultimate AI is for us to discover ourselves. It really goes full
Yeah.
circle back to us, and we've swerved into it here when science and art become one, which they have
Yeah.
always been one, right?
Yes.
But they've
Yeah.
tried to separate the two. When I say
Oh,
they, whoever
wow.
that
That is
is,
such a great point, Greg. That is such a
they've
great point.
always.
They say that, right? So they talk about when we look at human history from a scientific perspective, we think
Mhm.
that okay, humans have been around for millions of years and millions of years. But then when you look a little bit deeper and you understand it, you'll see that we went through some kind of mental shift about 5,000 years ago, which is why the 5,000 year ago people are all up in arms about that. But we
Mhm.
went through something and our tools evolved to the point where we could start having building societies and start building cultures and communities and religions and organized armies. All of these
Mhm.
things started happening about 5,000 years ago, and now with AI we're about to jump on the precipice of another huge biological shift that all of us are gonna, whether we like it or not, kicking or screaming, we're all coming along with it. We are going to, our intelligence is about to explode.
Yeah.
And when our intelligence explodes, it's going to leave a lot of us thinking, well, what is the purpose of who we are and why are we here?
That's the ultimate question. It always
Yeah.
has been. And we're kind of swerving into it with sticks and stones with who's
Mhm.
AI is going to take everyone's jobs. What are we going to do? Okay, interesting. AI is one of my postulates is AI is going to prove or disprove all of our theories. The theory of evolution,
Mhm.
Einstein's theory of relativity. They're all theories. They are
Yeah.
still theories.
Yeah.
Um, but we'll be able to
But they
conquer
won't be
those.
theories. They won't be theories very
They
much
won't be
longer. And what we're
right.
going to have is we're going to have new math. We're going to have new science. We're going to have new science equations. We're going to have all of these new things come out that are going to clarify things for us in a way that they've never clarified things for us before.
It's going to be yes, absolutely. We're seeing it already, and again,
Mhm.
points out that our systems are digital, and digital is on and off, and it's built on a
Mhm.
10 base because we had 10 fingers. It's very human
Yeah.
centric, humanistic, I guess.
Yeah.
There's going to be something different that comes out of that. And again, it's all about a discovery of who we are. It's going to go all the way around the big circle
Yeah.
and come right back to us, which is mind blowing.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
gonna it's a huge shift that we could lose people on. Who
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
mean, it's going to be a very, very significant impact, and we're not talking about that in the general media or in the
Oh
general
no.
hemispheres. We're still just talking about, oh, do you use ChatGPT for your work? And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking we have far evolved that so far. Like we should have been using ChatGPT for our work 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And well,
It's
a little bit less than 2 years ago, and then we would have been I don't know where we would have been right now. But, you know, there are companies and there are organizations and there are cultures and communities that are all embracing the AI, right? And they are moving forward. They are moving forward so much it's not even funny. When you look at the trends and you look at the reports, you can see that those organizations with an AI presence in their intentionally, the ones that are using AI are far outperforming anyone else. Like and the thing is that we're not even measuring the metrics by how they're performing out yet.
Yeah.
And that is something that needs to happen. Like we need to get those numbers, and we need to get those numbers out there as quickly as possible, letting people know that like the more that they use it, the more that like it's transformative it is.
Yeah, that'll happen on an individual basis. And you're right about the the stats and things of how to prove it, disprove, or whatever. Um, I think what will happen is we'll see it. It's going to be like an Apple moment. I don't even know if there's anything comparable, honestly, but because of the speed of adoption, the speed of which it comes down. I mean, it took 10 years, I think, for every horse to be off the road. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, 10
Um,
years. It did.
Electricity took a long
Yeah.
time for that to get everywhere. But now the time compression is huge, huge.
Yeah.
So anyway, um,
But that's a really interesting picture, right? So we're into almost end of year 2 of AI being unleashed onto humanity. Yeah, in 8 years from now, I can't even imagine what the landscape is going to look like.
well, there was an article that came out a couple days ago. Whatever his name is, Ray Kurzweil, or whatever,
Yeah.
he's been around for a while. He's always talked about the singularity,
Hmm.
right? He had a book
Yeah.
out called The Singularity
Hmm.
years ago. He just released another book. It says in 21 years, that's when the singularity will occur. And the singularity is when man and machine become one. But
Yeah.
it's not just that; it's when everyone is connected completely. So it's even
Yeah.
bigger. It's a spacey concept, but even if you take it as an extreme, anything less than that is still revolutionary. It's still
I mean, they're talking
wow.
when I first started researching this, right? They said that they were expecting the singularity to happen in 2029.
It might be closer to that. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know why Ray is saying it's 21 years out. I haven't read the book or
Yeah.
gotten into it, but and again, it depends on how you define singularity. 2029, that's
Yeah.
not that the way things are going. I mean, you just said 18, 20 months ago,
Yeah.
which by the way, I don't know if you follow, but the creative industry is really, I think we might have mentioned it once before. With Mid Journey, videos,
Oh,
music,
give me an
creative
update on
writing.
Midjourney. What is going on with Midjourney? Did it
Well,
integrate with somebody?
yeah, I don't know what the specifics are, but in general, all of those creative
Hmm.
applications are moving to creating video real
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
And things that would take massive computing power
Yeah.
16, 18, 24 months ago are now
Yeah.
available to everyone,
Yeah.
right, from your PC. Um, there's still some iteration challenges, but it's weird because the biggest threat from AI is to creatives when it comes to like
Yeah.
copywriting and commercials and things. But creatives are the ones who could probably maximize their position the
Yeah.
most with it. So it's a
Yeah.
double-edged sword. It's very interesting to hear. And they are not afraid. That group apparently is not afraid to try anything and everything when it
Yeah.
first comes out, right? And
Hmm.
so we're seeing. I think I might have posted an AI generated music video
Hmm.
completely, not just the actual video, but the
Wow.
audio, the music, the voice, everything was created by an
Wow.
AI operator, a prompter.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Wow.
the song was not an original song, but it was, I forget, I got it posted somewhere, but it was whoa,
I
that's
mean, it's
pretty
not
cool.
like it couldn't have. It's not like it couldn't have posted an original song. It has the
Oh yeah,
capacity to be able to do that.
it sure
I
can,
remember
and
when I
that's
was
scary.
I was just at a conference the other day, and at that conference, they were doing artwork. So basically, what they were doing was that they would ask you a series of questions about your preferences, and then AI generates an image that's for you.
Oh
And
yeah.
honestly, mine was fantastic. I was so impressed with it. I
So
was
you could
really,
create your
really,
own avatar,
yeah,
huh? Is that what it
yeah.
was? Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was a piece of art, and it was very beautiful, and I was very surprised at how well the AI could gauge, what I would like based on my responses.
It's crazy. Now that
Mhm.
segues into something I didn't have on the agenda today, but if you look at androids and you look at the ability to duplicate human behavior, which is what it does, there are a lot of new things that are occurring in the adult entertainment industry that,
Yeah, yeah, that's
you
always an
know,
interesting one.
yeah, that drives the market. I said it before. It's where the standardization between VHS and beta came in. It's
Yeah,
how online streaming became so big.
yeah,
Not Netflix. It was adult entertainment. So now what we're seeing is these adult stars or people who are in the industry are creating avatars.
yeah,
Okay, they're creating their own AI digital twins, and to
yeah,
say that is makes it really rudimentary. It's much more than that.
yeah,
But it can now speak with its audience as though it were the actor
yeah,
there and that person is not there.
yeah,
So, I mean, it's just like Her. Remember the movie Her
yeah,
when he
yeah,
realized that
100%.
he was in love with the
Yeah,
AI, but the AI had 1,500 other boyfriends.
yeah,
So it's like mind blowing at that point. So we're seeing that happen right now
yeah,
in the commercial industry. People are paying for that. It's a business
yeah,
model. It's real. Um, and where we go from there, I mean, you can take that and put it into movies. You can take that
yeah,
technology and put it into politics. You can take it and put it into training videos, which, by the way, I just read another article that AI wants to consume all the user manuals for all the
yeah,
machines so that we don't have to have a user manual anymore. And for us in the
yeah,
consumer side, your dishwasher, your washing machine, whatever, everyone chucks them in the drawer.
yeah,
Never, if you're a dude or whatever. Um,
yeah, yeah. I do
but
too. I do the
I
same
know,
thing.
yeah. But press operators, industrial machinery,
Yeah,
you got to read that manual. And there could be, there's always a guy who's in charge of the service who has a
yeah,
desk full of 30 or 40 manuals per machine.
yeah.
Well, now it's AI. AI has just consumed every manual for that machine ever done, ever
Wow.
done. And now, so your operator has a question instead of calling the service dude, it just interfaces with the AI.
Yeah,
That's one step. Then ultimately, the
yeah,
AI won't need that guy, that operator. If
yeah.
something breaks, the AI is going to know, and it's going to feed it
And
to
I
the
mean, we're
engine.
looking at developing autonomous systems then, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, basically, you'll have washers and dryers that don't need to have repairs done on them because AI is already there doing them internally
Yep.
because, it's just a very small, like normally what happens with these things is, AI can replace the part if it needs to replace the part.
Yep. Yep. Another article I read was about the AI water heaters.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds interesting. But yeah,
Yeah.
it takes the, obviously the heating patterns of water
Yeah.
whenever you use it, whenever you don't use it, it'll, run it there. But then also on the diagnostics, my pilot light is not acting correctly. It's not within parameters. So instead of waiting until it fails,
Yeah.
it is either modified through software, which it could do, or
Yeah.
services ordered and blah blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah. But yeah, that changes everything. The whole service model for industrial
Yeah.
service techs
100%.
changes
Humans don't,
everything.
you can take humans out of so many loops, it's not even funny. And
Yeah,
humans are usually the problem, right? I mean,
nope,
that's what it comes down to.
weakest link.
When
Yeah,
you have systems, the main problem is usually the human in the middle of it. The rest of it goes pretty smoothly.
yeah. I mean, that is the failure point. So that brings up, okay, well, if I don't need a plumber, which I'm not saying it, that
Hmm.
may, well, I don't know. I've seen robots, but okay. So what are all the plumbers in the world going to do? What are all the electricians in the world going to do? What about the construction guys that now these houses can be 3D printed in a week? What is that whole industry?
Well, that's what
I
I
don't know.
constantly say, right? I mean, your job does not exist anymore. You do
Right.
not get to do this job. So now think of something else that you want to do, and think of something else, anything that you want to do now, because you can basically do anything that you want to do.
Right. And then, so, that's the great why in the road actually is the capitalism, the whole, well, how am I going to get paid? How am I going to live? How am I going to buy food? Now,
Yeah,
that model with the what's it called? Is it a zero sum model? I think is what it's referred to.
yeah,
Um, has to be redone. That is huge.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work, but that's huge. It's a Star Trek world
yeah.
original. Seriously.
We're already in Star Trek world for sure. I mean, we're definitely in Star Trek world. We've been there for a while.
Mm.
For a lot of people, we've been there for a while. I think a lot of Star Trek stuff started happening even before AI was at the
Oh
forefront.
yeah, easily.
Hmm.
We can go there. I get the communicator. There was no paper in Star Trek, but the
Yeah,
captain signed off on something that looked like a tablet.
yeah,
There's also the warp drive system. Everyone's talked about
hmm,
that. The replicator.
yeah,
And then even with the next generation, the hologram, the holodeck, stuff
yeah.
like that. So yeah, it's sci-fi. Now you got me going. Sci-fi has been ahead of the curve, and as weird as it sounds, the real world is
But
catching
it's
up to
not
sci-fi.
now.
I
It's
know,
not
no
now.
longer
It's
science
really
fiction.
not. I mean, you cannot find science fiction that is ahead of what's going on in the world right now in front of real
Barely ahead.
nonfiction.
Yeah.
Science fiction holds nothing right now. I mean, even this guy who's writing this book that says that the singularity will happen in 24 years from now, it's complete and total speculation and conjecture.
Yeah.
And and it could happen so much quicker than that.
Right. Absolutely. On
Hmm.
depends on definitions and things like that.
Hmm.
It's yeah, accelerating and accelerating and accelerating
Hmm.
per day. But so it's funny, not funny, but I think I'm not sure. I have to look into it a little bit deeper, but it might be creating a void, a crevasse between the
Yeah.
haves and the have-nots and the do's and the do-notters. I don't know how to put it any other way. It's like if you're not
I
using it,
don't know. I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
yet. I don't know yet because I know that there's a healthy demographic in the middle that are
Yeah.
using it and are using it for their jobs. They're using it for their middle management jobs and they're doing a fantastic job with it. And so I don't know. I don't know whether this is going to be a have or a have not thing. I think this is just going to be basically a readjustment as to how you actually live your life. I really do.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Hmm.
Um, I don't. Yeah. Well, I'm not sure about, say, economically third world countries and things like that. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I think that it will. I read another article about how the cost of AI is going to drop significantly.
Yeah, yeah, I heard that too.
So if it's everywhere, and I mean everywhere, then it doesn't matter, right? They
Yeah,
won't be having that. They're I don't know. Human nature
yeah,
throws a monkey wrench in there too. I mean, we were talking all this stuff, and meanwhile, there's bombs being dropped somewhere in the world right now.
yeah, 100%.
So I don't know how there's going to be a fight of some sort because the
Yeah.
haves are going to want what everyone. I don't know. I don't know. Human nature. We'll see. We'll see. But
You know, it's an interesting, it's a really interesting thing because, when this new Apple iPhone comes out, right? It's AI integrated one. It could change the infrastructure as to how people start communicating with each other. And that's going to be a huge thing, right? And iPhones are global.
right.
So people in all communities have them. So it's going to be a very interesting paradigm
Mm,
shift for to see all of these iPhone users who are now going to be using an AI device. I don't even think you can call it a phone anymore. It's going to be more of an AI device.
yeah. It'll get to the point where we won't even call it AI. That's what I'm
Yeah,
looking for. It's like we don't even think
yeah,
about electricity anymore,
yeah,
right? I mean, it used to
yeah.
be a big deal
You still
not
call
that
it
long.
power, though. You still
It's
call it power.
power.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it's everywhere, quote
yeah,
unquote.
yeah,
You know, um,
yeah.
and it can be everywhere.
I
So it's
wonder
interesting.
what. And then they had something in the news just recently where they were talking about the fact that they were saying that um, their biggest concern is in the next 10 years there might not be enough power to be able to supply um, to be able to operate AI because AI requires more power than anything else,
Yep.
and they just think that the power shortage will dry out AI usage.
Well, that's interesting and incorrect, but that's interesting. There is going to be a strain on power, but
Hmm.
AI will solve that problem.
That's what I believe too. That's
Yeah,
what I believe too.
there's
But
already many nuclear reactors out there. There's a salt-based reactor that does not kick off radiation. They're
mhm.
smaller than everyone. They're not 3 Mile
Yeah,
Island. They're not. They are. There's a company that builds them modular nuclear,
yeah,
so you can stand one up in a very
yeah,
short amount of time, not decades. That's
yeah,
nukes. but also we'll see. AI will take care of that. There won't be a power shortage. Let me put it this way: there won't be a natural power shortage.
Yeah.
There'll be a man-made power shortage,
Yeah, there'll be
or
a man-made shot. That always happens. And
yeah.
talking about that kind of news, I want to come back to the topic that you were talking about as well. It is really important for us to pay attention to where we get our AI news from,
Oh,
because there are so many different sources that are not credible and are not reliable. And so, for example, just this one conversation, this is a report that came out. My staff member shared it with me about the fact that the power shortage can be, but when we talk it through, we realize that that's really not a relevant problem for right now, because AI is so ahead of the game right now that by the time that we get to that, that won't be a problem. But along with that, there's just so many other sources that you've been seeing, right, Greg, that have just been like really outrageous about the way that they're representing AI.
well, yeah, and unfortunately, it's all headline driven. It's
Hmm.
all headline driven,
Yeah,
and so I'm wallowing in it every single day.
yeah.
The AI content, and it's starting to separate. It always has. So you can
Hmm.
tell when something is clickbait real easy.
Yeah,
Um, there was a time when any AI information, content, articles, whatever was good because it was so brand new.
yeah,
It's starting to separate now where you're getting folks that are generating content via AI, and
yeah,
you can tell that off the bat.
yeah,
They're empty. It's just
yeah.
empty. And misinformation is big. What I love is the articles that say that AI can create misinformation, disinformation, when in the article itself is misinformation. It's just it's crazy. And in the media right now, glad you brought this
Mhm.
up. I mean, journal after journal, newspaper after newspaper, property after property are laying off in the thousands. Right. This
Wow.
is the media world is going through a major upheaval right now because of
Yeah,
AI, and on all fronts, from the written word, the newspaper, um, videos, Hollywood, actors, scripts, all that is just going through a major crunch and a purge, to be said. Those
yeah,
who survive, all right,
yeah,
those who stay will be champions. Those who survive will be real writers. But there
yeah,
will be 95% of the market will be generated through AI.
yeah.
And right now, you can tell, and I'm guessing that and that.
But people are going to turn around and say very
Yeah,
soon that they don't want human generated content anymore. They want AI generated content, because
yeah,
AI generated content can be so much more bespoke. It can be so much more tailored for each individual. And it's just like the writing style is so diverse. Like you can have it, every person can have a bespoke experience.
that's interesting. Yeah, it's much like, one of my theories is that you can create your movie on movie night.
Yeah.
You can just prompt in a 2.5 hour movie about blah 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 blah, blah, and boom, out it comes. Um, Same with the way you digest your content, which is now
Yeah.
that's very interesting, right? So the AI's
Hmm.
right now the AI knows what my interests are, so it
Yeah.
automatically finds content that's already created
Yeah.
and pours that into my stream.
Yeah.
Ultimately, AI will know what I like,
Yeah.
and based on what's going on in the real world through sensors, it'll create content for me. So it
Yeah.
bypasses the whole that's a good point.
Yeah.
So newscasters, articles won't you won't need that if the
Yeah.
AI is trained enough and is plugged into the real world. That's another thing.
Yeah. I mean,
And
you could have an AI generated naked news channel where you could have your anchors give you the news naked, and
oh
it's
yeah,
completely original, bespoke, completely without copyright, and no humans involved in the entire process.
right. The only thing it would need, it being the AI, would be connectivity to the
Yeah.
real world, and that's
Yeah.
happening. And that
Yeah.
comes back to the sensors, and multimodal.
Yeah.
So, boy, that's an awesome thought there. And
Yeah.
then, the degree of risk is huge.
Yeah.
In theory, you're creating your own AI to handle the real world when
I mean,
ultimately
but ultimately, that's
someone might
that's that's
be,
that that's going to have to happen, right? I mean,
yeah.
every person is going to have their own individualized AI experience.
That will happen, and so my number one concern is how they're trained, but I'm thinking of how it's trained today
Hmm.
with inner biases, and then you can
Yeah.
even inject your own. But if it's ultimately trained on its own, it'll compensate. It won't recognize. It won't have a bias per
Yeah,
se. So that'd be very interesting that we'd all have our own feed, as it were. Boy, that'll throw everything up in arms. That'll
it would. It
because
would, but
we
it's an
just blown,
inevitability.
yeah, we've blown every demographic idea out the window.
Yeah.
Interesting, very
And
interesting.
then we just get an entire new mass AI way of doing things, like the way that we market, the way that the way that we create content, all of that stuff. I'm sure there will be an external, like governing over body. Netflix might be the ones that are the ones that lead this, but you
Mm.
will have media organizations that will take the lead on this. But ultimately, the end result is that we've been looking at more and more tailored, personalized, tailored content for people, and now AI is going to be able to do that.
Well, yeah, AI will help that, but that shakes the foundations of everything. Come to think of
Yeah,
it, I mean, wow. All right, that's a lot. That's an awful lot if you
yeah,
start to think about it, because then it calls into question commerce. It call and ex boy political ramifications.
yeah,
How does a society run if everyone has their own ideals, their own world, their own rules and
yeah.
regulations?
100%. Wow. That's a very interesting. Wow, you went there. Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Another thing that concerns me, not concern, but I'm thinking about is that most of our past explorations were based on trade and commerce, right? Columbus
Mhm.
came across looking for
Yeah,
the trade routes.
yeah,
When we discovered a new civilization, the first thing one society wanted to do was to trade with the other, and that's how
hmm,
civilizations, whatever, built,
yeah,
destroyed. That's how it was. In a world where there is no trade, the expansion is all exploratory for discovery and what? Self improvement,
and
self
it has to
discovery.
be. Self-discovery would probably be the one. If we can get people engaged in that, but there's a lot of people who are not interested in self-discovery.
Well, not the way they're doing it now. You're right.
Yeah,
You're right. And then ultimately, so what does it have? What does being able to go to Mars have to do with self discovery? That's a big question. And then,
yeah.
so I'm thinking, let me stream of thought. It doesn't have anything to do with it.
No, it
So
doesn't.
what happens is our exploration shifts from going out to going in.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's going to be a really, really, oh, wow. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very wow future when we look at it from that perspective. But
Huh.
let's shift to robots. You have some robot information about robots that I'm dying to hear about. You said
Well,
you were going to talk about robots. So let's talk about robots.
well, robots sound like a very Robbie the robot, Hal, the
Yeah.
robot from Lost in Space. I read an interesting article about how the shape of a robot, the physical shape of a robot,
Hmm.
is important to humans. That's why you see a lot of these quote androids with two legs, two
Yeah.
arms, a torso, a head. It doesn't have to have that,
Yeah.
right? Uh, well, it's debatable, I guess. Is the human form the most optimized form for this world?
Yeah.
Which an argument could be made that five
Yeah.
fingers in this world is the best, not
Yeah.
six on each hand for some whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the robot story, the android story, is another chapter was turned with Figure Two. I might have mentioned it earlier,
Hmm.
and it integrates everything we've talked about. Right, it's a physical presence. It
Yeah.
looked like a human, so it's more identifiable, and one
Hmm.
might say more friendly, but we'll leave
Yeah.
that there for now. With the integration to multimodal, it can quote be aware of its world around it.
Okay.
All right, which
Yeah.
is another step towards sentence,
Yeah.
but we'll see about that. Um, but it is human centric,
Yeah.
right? It is, and I think it was Chat OpenAI came out with a statement yesterday about how their voice um, app, or we'll call it an app for now,
Yeah.
is so good that
Hmm.
people will become reliant on it, which is
Yeah.
code for they're going to fall in love with this
Yeah.
AI voice. All right, now you couple that with the robots that look like humans because
Yeah.
they want to be designed to look like humans, right?
Yeah.
Um, we're looking at another social upheaval that we haven't seen ever. Um, the robots that we're talking about today, the androids that we're looking at today, are
Yeah.
metal and hydraulics and electronic.
Yeah.
That's like the paper biplanes of
Yeah.
the early 1900s, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They won't resemble anything like they do today in the
Yeah.
next maybe a few years. So there's a social impact to that is just huge,
Yeah.
huge. And like I alluded to before, as the adult industry, there's going to be the intimacy level of human to robot or human to android, and then once, and this is happening, once the metal goes away and fabricated skin tissue
Yeah.
becomes
Yeah.
part of the android,
Yeah.
all bets are off. We're looking at a Blade
Yeah.
Runner world, and this is not some hocus pocus
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
sci-fi kind of baloney. This is
No.
they're doing it. They were growing skin. Some company I worked with out in San Diego, God, 10, 15 years ago, were growing,
Mhm.
growing skin for burn victims.
Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
great. But
100%.
the step from skin to organs is big, but it's doable once you're down that path.
Yeah. Once you understand what you're supposed to do with it, yeah, you're absolutely right.
So the robot issue is pretty big to me.
Yeah.
And it is like iRobot. It is a lot like the science fiction we talked about earlier, but it's a big deal. And talk about helping people, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think of the elderly because we're going to live longer. For
Yeah.
now, the robots can assist in so much.
So much. So much.
Um,
Yeah. You're absolutely correct.
what did I
So that would
see?
be an exciting thing to see. I'm really looking forward to that. And
Yeah, we've
hopefully
talked about
going
it
to
before.
more of these conventions so that we can be introduced to some of these robots because each of these conventions are showcasing their robots
Yeah.
technology and it really is impressive. It really is.
Well, I've been reading the Psychology Today for a while now, and they're
Okay.
hitting up on AI a lot.
Oh,
All
really?
right.
Okay,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
interesting.
I'd say there might be out of I don't know 15 articles, there may be one or two
Hmm.
that touch on artificial intelligence
Okay.
in the industry, and Alzheimer's, all sorts of not just researching drugs that can help, but using AI. And the big thing, honestly, is self therapy,
Yeah.
AI therapists. Now, of course, they're
Yeah.
going to be concerned because that replaces therapists. So
Yeah.
there's something there, but they're objective enough to see that there is a value to that. And I think what most people who are in the know of anything know when they look at AI objectively as a system, they can see where their
Yeah.
manual systems can be replaced and optimized by that artificial intelligence system, whether you're manufacturing cars or helping people through therapy, right? There's a system. Anyway,
Yeah.
Psychology Today, they're talking more and more about the remote and the benefits of having right now AI therapist in the palm of your hand via the phone of some sort, right?
Which is definitely one of the basic uses of AI right now.
I
Like everyone should be using it right now for that purpose. Like I don't think that anyone should be paying for therapy anymore. I think
Ooh.
we should be 100% using AI for therapy and seeing how amazing it can do it, right? The
Yeah,
thing about it is that you have the enablers and you have the enabled, right? The enabled are the
yeah,
ones that you have, so you want to be in that situation where you feel enabled enough to be able to go out and do all of these things for yourself and you have access to something that you never had before, right? I mean, therapy was is in America, obviously more people go to therapy than anywhere else in the world, right? I mean, that's basically a well-known fact. But even in America, like most people that don't get to go to therapists because it's expensive.
mm,
And using this technology and using AI to give yourself that therapeutic boost is I would say that like that should be something that we should be doing. Everyone should be doing it today.
I agree. I like it. I think it's a great idea. Um,
Mhm.
so where would people punch holes in that you can't trust an AI therapist? Would that be because trust is a big issue?
Oh, yeah. I
Um,
mean, I don't understand how trust would be an issue there because the information is not going anywhere. The information is just contained within your
well,
AI chat. They
I
might
don't.
be able to, they might say that it doesn't have the human touch,
They
right?
might. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking more in terms of where issues need an answer that only an educated therapist would know. And is
Yeah.
there such a thing? I don't,
And,
I
and
don't
I
know
think
that
that
much
those
about it.
are,
So
I think those are just usage issues, right? I mean, the more people that use it, the more people that report back
that's
on
that.
it, the more people that do it. I think it would be really, really helpful to have those people use it who have been in therapy and already understand the system of therapy and then come back and report on it, because I think that
Yeah,
would be really, that would be really great. But yeah, as far as
that's
being a
interesting.
therapist is concerned, I was suffering from PTSD, and I had some serious symptoms from it. And I took AI and I used it as my therapist. And after 6 weeks, my PTSD was completely gone, and it has never come back.
Hmm. Wow. Okay, perfect.
But that's also because I, as a user, I'm an educated user. I have been in therapy for many, many years. And so I understand the system of therapy. I
Mm,
understand what the therapist is asking of me. So when AI behaves as a therapist, I can do what that therapist is asking me to do.
that's really interesting. So, boy, I could see, you know, the AI friend
Mm-hmm.
who could, as opposed to calling them a therapist or
Yeah.
the entity a therapist. Boy, the social impacts of that are huge. Where, and I'm
Yeah.
just thinking of the difference between men and women,
Yeah.
right? I mean, right now, and I could be totally wrong, but men don't
Yeah.
communicate that as openly, or we're wired in a certain way, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I think of the male at the extreme who probably needs it the most are these special
Mm-hmm.
forces guys, these military dudes that are out
Yeah.
there trained to do stuff and come back. And that's
Yeah.
the extreme,
I mean,
right?
but that's all the processes that we are. That's such a great point, Greg.
Mm,
Like, the use cases for it are so magnificent, and there are so many that we can use it for, and especially with the military, because the military are so badly underserved where it comes to mental health resources. And so, starting to develop these programs is such an important goal, and there's not enough people that are doing it. There
I
really
don't.
isn't.
Yeah, I don't.
Hmm.
I can't think of ever running across any article, and I go through hundreds a day that have
Hmm.
anything to do with that AI and the military in terms of helping PTSD.
Yeah.
And I think seriously, I just kind of ran into it, but that is the extreme of
Yeah.
pressure. And when you got it, I mean, the tip of the spear, the whole
Yeah.
thing, the training that
Yeah.
gets them there,
100%.
the when they're
And
downrange,
having,
that
I
whole
mean, can
thing.
you imagine having an AI integrated system that is with the officer from the day that he starts his service? You know, I mean, an AI that could take him along his journey, help support him throughout the entire process. So when he comes out of it, he has much less damage than an unsupported person in the same field.
Mm. Well, that's an interesting
Yeah.
avenue. And then now, see, we swerve into social things again. I mean, what's the
Yeah.
purpose of a military, right? So,
Yeah.
so the AI in that asset, and that particular example would need to support the goals of being in the
Yeah.
military. And there's two. And then the post, I like the idea. I don't know how to figure that one out. I have to think about it. But there is a PTSD. You just mentioned it. But what is there that can be to help those guys even after missions, even when they're done
Yeah.
hours after? Because that
But we can
pressure.
develop programs now, right? The AIs are so advanced now that you can actually develop programs that they could use, and they could be put on after their service or even during their service to help support them.
Yeah, yeah. Because it better, and the military will want to be able to handle that in a different way, I'm guessing. But
Yeah.
post service would be in the civilian side,
Hmm.
and that would be really helpful. Boy,
Yeah.
that's a good idea. I wrote that down. I have to check
Yeah,
into that.
awesome. Let's
Wow.
let's do this. That's the big thing, right? So I want to mention a little bit about Brain. Brain
Yeah.
stands for Blueprint for Responsible AI Navigation, and it's an organization that Greg and I are both a part of. And basically, what we want to do is we want to get the word out, and we want to get people involved in helping us to be able to, talk about what's going on in the AI landscape and actually have a meaningful voice in it. So, we're complaining about the fact that the EU has put in these draconian measures
Mm.
against AI. They won't feel like draconian right now because AI is very superficial for most of us. But for the ones that are really in the trenches and they're understanding what AI is capable of, then you really understand how limiting these regulations will be. But Brain is an organization that wants to have that discussion, right? So when England decides that they're going to have their regulation, they can actually have a discussion with an organization that understands what's going on within the AI industry and really helps them to be able to see a long-term vision of that. And
So
so
let me stop and have a question. So when you say Brain does that, Brain is not an organization of IT specialists.
it is not. It is
Okay.
not. It stands for Blueprint for Responsible AI
Okay.
Navigation.
Responsible.
And its goal is to help people and organizations understand how to responsibly adopt AI in a way that benefits them. So that is basically what we're trying to do. And we're building this organization because there is power in numbers, and we want to be able to build this organization so that we can have a meaningful voice, and we want as many people involved in it as possible. And so you can reach it from you can get access to it from my LinkedIn page for resident consulting, and just go ahead and follow it and see if this is an organization that can help you gain a little bit more of an understanding as to what's going on in the AI landscape, and also help you become part of the conversation.
So what would I'll put you through the ringer here. So what would I be looking for if I wanted to engage Brain? What am I say I'm an organization of some sort, a business.
Yes.
Why would I want to engage with you guys? What?
Well, because AI is transformative, right?
Okay.
And AI is going to change everything that happens within your business, and you want to stay ahead of the curve, and you want to see which areas AI is going to just change, and which areas AI is going to replace, and which areas AI is going to enhance. And so we can give you all of the information from an organizational perspective. We can give it to you from a personal perspective. We can tell you how AI can help you within your personal endeavors as well. And so, it's a leadership organization, and what it tries to do is it tries to lead people in a meaningful way to use AI responsibly.
So is it like a survey of then versus a, hey, I want to use AI in my manufacturing process? I mean, I've narrowed it down to that, but I don't know what that means, kind of
Yeah,
thing. Is that
exactly.
okay?
That's a perfect use case. Exactly. Like I know that I'm going to have to use AI within my specific industry, and I just don't know how to do it. And then Brain can help you with doing that. We can give you we're going to be offering workshops, we're going to be offering trainings, we're going to be offering speakers that will come out and talk to you about it. And so yeah, hopefully that's what it will evolve into. But it's a brand new organization, and we're just at the forefront of it. And I think that we have a great group of people that are very excited about growing Brain and making sure that Brain does what it's going out to there. Growing Brain, right? We sound smart. We sound very smart because we're growing brains. Yes.
Abby Normal.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, so that's
That's cool.
basically it.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. I'm looking forward to developing that Brain more than ever. Yeah.
Developing the brain. Yes, exactly.
Well, that's great. Cool. So we're going to do this every Friday.
Yes.
And we'll probably be able to get it out more and more. But we're just starting, right?
Yeah.
Love these
And
conversations.
we're available now, and
Yes.
we're ready to roll, and it feels great. This was really wonderful.
Well, I love talking like this. I think what we might do next week is maybe focus in on one particular. I don't know. I don't want to do that, but these are great. All right, so we'll close it up here.
Okay,
Thank
sounds
you very
great.
much.
All right, Greg.
Wonderful. Have a great weekend, and hit us both up on LinkedIn. That's the place to.
All right, Greg.
Go forward. All right.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for a wonderful hour, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.